Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IAS. As you know that we are covering the previous year question papers of UPSC preliminary examination through this series of discussions. Okay, so today we are going to cover art and culture. So let us see the topics that we are going to cover through questions today. Okay, so we are going to cover the post Harsha period, then we will look into the terms from history, then we are going to see the inscriptions, we are going to understand about religious history of India, and we are going to see Gupta period through questions today. Okay, so as you can see that like in the prelims examination there is a portion of the syllabus that says history of India and Indian national movement. So today's discussion is associated with history of India, and in the mains exam as well there is a relevant syllabus which is known as Indian culture, will cover the salient aspect of art forms, literature, and architecture from ancient to modern times. Okay, so let us now take the first question for the day. Let us see what this question says. Okay, so this question reads, which of the following phrases define the nature of the hundi generally referred to in the sources of post Harsha period? Okay, so they have given two information through this particular sentence. One is they are asking about the meaning of hundi. Okay, hundi, and they have mentioned about like what was its meaning during the post Harsha period. Okay, options are option A, an advisory issued by the king to his subordinates. Option B, a diary to be maintained for daily accounts. Option C, a bill of exchange. And option D, an order from the feudal lord to his subordinates. Okay, so let us understand what is hundi. Okay, let us understand what is hundi. Okay, hundi generally means a financial instrument. Okay, hundi was a financial instrument. Okay, so this particular financial instrument was developed during the medieval period. Okay, it was developed during medieval period on the Indian subcontinent. Okay, it was developed during medieval period. Okay, on Indian subcontinent. So what was hundi, and in what ways hundi was being used? So hundi was used for sending remittances. Okay, so it was used as a remittance instrument. Okay, it was used as a remittance instrument. What do we mean by remittance instrument? Remittance means when someone is sending money from one place to another place. If we talk about the current example of remittance, let's consider there is a person who works in one of the countries in European Union. Let's consider he is working in Germany, and he is earning money from there, and he wants to send money back to India. So that will be known as remittance. Okay, so hundi was used as a remittance instrument for sending money from one place to another place. Okay, and it was also used as a credit instrument. Okay, it was also used as a credit instrument, okay, to borrow money. And apart from this, hundi had another work, which is it was used as a trade transaction. Okay, it was used for trade transaction. Okay, and as a bill of exchange. Okay, it was used as a trade transaction as a bill of exchange. Okay, so I'll make you understand what do we mean by bill of exchange. So that's why correct answer for this particular question is C. Okay, we are going to discuss what do we mean by bill of exchange. What happens in a bill of exchange? Let's consider there is a person A. Okay, there is a person A, and he has written a letter. Okay, he has written a document in letter form, and after writing this letter he gives this particular paper to another person B. Okay, and in this letter he has mentioned name of a person. Let's consider his name is C. So person A writes a letter, writes some document where he mentions that a sum of money must be given to person C, and he gives this particular letter to B, and B person, after receiving this particular thing, he gives that sum of money to C. That is known as, bill of exchange, simply. Okay. So that's the thing. So correct answer for this question is C. Having understood this, now let us take the next question for the day. Okay, so this question reads, with reference to the history of India, the terms Kulya Vapa and Drona Vapa denote. Okay, options are option A, measurement of land, option B, coins of different monetary value, option C, classification of urban land, and option D, religious rituals. Okay, so correct answer is measurement of land. Okay, we are going to understand like what is the meaning of Kulya Vapa and Drona Vapa. Basically, these terminologies were used during the Gupta period. Okay, when it was used during the Gupta period. Okay, it was used during the Gupta period. And these terminologies, okay, I'm writing these terminologies one by one. One of the term was Adhavapa. Okay, one of the term was Adhavapa. Okay, then second term was Drona Vapa. Okay, second term was Vapa. Okay, third one was Kulya Vapa. Kulya, Kulya Vapa. Okay, so what does these word mean? These means a piece of land. Okay, like this is a measurement of land. Basically, what do we mean by the term Vapa? Vapa means an act of sowing. Vapa comes from the word Vap, which means an act of sowing. Means like if you are, sowing a particular kind of agricultural, you know, thing into a field, that is known as Vap. So Adha Vapa, Drona Vapa, Kulya Vapa, it simply means like, it simply means that you are going to sow, okay, sow, in a particular field, okay, a kind of crop, okay. So that is Kulya Vapa. Okay, so what was the measurement of Adha Vapa? Adha Vapa generally, measured from 3/8 to 1/2 of an acre, okay, acre. And Drunavapa measured from 1.5 acre to 2 acre of land. Okay. And if we talk about Kulyavapa, it measured from 12 to 16 acres of land. Okay. So this is the thing. Correct answer for this question is A. And apart from this, there were other terminologies as well. There was a term which is known as, Pataka. It meant a, piece of land that measured from 60 to 80 acre. Okay. And apart from this, there were few other terms, like they had used the terminologies like angula. Okay, they used terminology like angula. Angula was a very small unit of land, that is, 3/4 of an inch. If we talk about, there was another term which is known as hasta. Okay, hasta. It was equivalent to 18 inches. Okay, it was equivalent to 18 inches. Let's consider if you're measuring from here till this particular tip, this length will be known as hasta. Okay, this length will be known as hasta. And apart from this, there were, little like bigger terminologies also, like there was dhanu and nala. Okay, there was, dhanu and nala. So these were also terminologies that were, associated with measurement of land. Okay, so correct answer for this question is A. Now, having discussed this, let us take the next question for the day. This question reads, who among the following rulers advised his subjects through this inscription? Whosoever praises his religious sect or blames other sect out of excessive devotion to his own sect with the view of glorifying his own sect, he rather injures his own sect very severely. Okay, so this is means like, so a ruler is saying that, like, if you like praise your own religion or own sect, and at the same time if you, demean or like, if you condemn the other sects, so in that process what you are doing, you are actually, uh, bringing more harm to your own sect. Okay, so this is the thing. So through this message, the ruler tries to say that, like, you can, like you can profess your sect, but you should not demean or like you should not, put down other sects. Okay, so this particular, inscription was, like advised, to his subject by Ashoka, by Lord Ashoka, or like, by King Ashoka. Okay, or Emperor Ashoka. So the thing is, you can see this is the image of Ashoka, and this is the 12th rock edict of Ashoka. Okay, 12th rock edict of Ashoka. So as you know, there were 14 major rock edicts, okay, of Ashoka, and this particular statement was taken from the 12th rock edict. And I have taken the English translated version of the 12th rock edict. In your free time, you can simply pause this video, and after pausing, you can read whatever is written. So over here, you can see it is written, whoever praises his own religion due to excessive devotion and condemns other with the thought, let me glorify my own religion, only harms his own religion. Okay. In the 12th rock edict itself, he has also mentioned about Dhamma Mahamatras and Mahamatras. Okay, so these were officials who were given the charge of propagating the Dhamma policy of Ashoka. Okay, so the correct answer for this question was A, Ashoka. Okay, now let us take the next question for the day. This is question number 4. Let us read the question. With reference to religious history of India, consider the following statements. Okay, the statements are: statement 1, Isthaviravadins belong to Mahayana Buddhism. Second statement, Lokottaravadin sect was an offshoot of Mahasangika sect of Buddhism. Third statement, the deification of Buddha by Mahasangikas fostered the Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, which of the statements given above is or are correct? You might be thinking that this question is very difficult. Okay, it is difficult because because of few terminologies. Okay, there are few terminologies that seems to be little difficult. Let me first uh, tell you the meaning of some of the words, and after that we are going to understand this question and we are going to understand it, understand about it. So when we talk about deification, Deification, okay, what do we mean by deification? Deification is when, okay, a person is treated like a god. Okay, deification is when a person, okay, a person is treated like a god. It simply means when you start treating a person like a god, okay, then that is known as deification. Okay, that is known as deification. Now, let us take another word, fostered. Okay, we will understand the meaning of the word. Okay, so we have understood the meaning of deification. Now we are going to understand, okay, the meaning of the word fostered. Okay, fostered or foster means encourage the development of. It simply means encourage. You have like you can encourage the development of. Okay, development of. Okay, this is the meaning of this particular thing. Apart from this, there is another difficult word over here. This is Lokottara. Okay, it means Lokottara Vadin. Okay, Lokottara. What do we mean by Lokottara? Lokottara simply means something which is super mundane or transcendent, means something which is beyond and above this particular worldly thing. Okay, Lokottara simply means something which is super mundane or something which is transcendent, which is beyond this particular worldly thing. Okay, so having understood the meanings of these words, let us understand about Buddhism. Let me clear this particular thing, or what I can do, I can bring a screen over here, black screen. Okay, so let us understand what do we mean by let us understand about Buddhism, then only we are going to understand this question. Okay, so if we talk about Buddhism, okay, Buddhism was initially divided into two different sects. Okay, initially it was divided into two different sects. One of the sects was known as Theravadins. Okay, one of the sect was known as Theravadins. Okay, Theravadins were also known as Isthaviravadins. Okay, they were also known as Isthaviravadins. Okay, they were also known as Isthaviravadins. So these later, okay, this particular sect later transformed into Hinayana Buddhism. Okay, Hinayana Buddhism, Hinayana sect of Buddhism. Okay, we are going to understand like what happened. like initially Buddhism, okay, so you might have read about Buddhism, like there were three canons of Buddhism, like Sutta Pitaka, Vinay Pitaka, Abhidhamma Pitaka. Okay, so when Vinay Pitaka was codified, there were like there were differences of opinion among the monks. Some of the monks wanted that like we should preserve the teaching of Lord Buddha in the same form as the Buddha has taught. Okay, so these people, the followers of Isthavarvadins, okay, followers of Theravadins or Isthaviravadins, they followed the senior monks of the first Buddhist Sangha itself. Okay, they followed senior monks of first Buddhist Sangha itself. Okay, first Buddhist Sangha itself. Okay, and apart from this, there was another sect of Buddhism, which is, initially it was known as Mahasanghika. Okay, it was known as Mahasanghika, and Mahasanghika later on turned into Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, it later on turned into Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, so Mahasanghika sect were those people who believed in the plurality of Buddha. Okay, so they said like Buddha had various forms, and they started worshipping Buddha, okay, as God. Isthavarvadins were not worshipping Buddha as God. Isthavarvadin were considered Buddha to be a human being who had a supreme wisdom or supreme understanding. But people of Mahayana Buddhism, they started treating Lord Buddha as God, and at the same time they started doing idol worship. Okay, so this Mahasanghika, later on turned into this Mahayana Buddhism. And if we talk about Lokottara Vadins, okay, there was another sect which is known as Lokottara Vadins. Okay, Lokottara Vadins. So what was this sect doing? Okay, so this particular sect believed in plurality of Buddha. They believed that Buddha was a super mundane human being. Okay, super mundane means like he was beyond the boundaries of this particular world. Okay, so they considered him to be a transcendent being. So it was like Lokottara Vadin was a sect of Mahasanghika. It was a sect of Mahasanghika Buddhism itself. Okay, it was a sect of Mahasanghika Buddhism itself. And so like it was Lokottara Vadin was an early school of Buddhism. It was one of the early school of Buddhism. Okay, it was one of the early schools of Buddhism. Okay, so having understood this, now let us try to answer this particular question. Okay, so now let us see the solution for this question. Okay, let us read the statement again. Statement 1 reads, Isthaviravadins belong to Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, so as I already discussed that Isthaviravadins were associated with, okay, they were associated with Hinayana Buddhism. Okay, they were associated with Theravada and Hinayana Buddhism. So statement 1 is incorrect. Okay, when statement 1 is incorrect, it means we can eliminate option A. We can also eliminate option D. Okay, now we are left with two more statements. Okay, so let us read the second statement now. It says Lokottara Vadin sect was an offshoot of Mahasanghika sect of Buddhism. Yes, Lokottara Vadins was an offshoot of Mahasanghika sect of Buddhism, and later on Mahasanghika itself became the Mahayana sect of Buddhism. So statement second is correct. If statement second is correct, so correct answer is B. Let us also read the third statement, which says the deification of Buddha by Mahasanghikas fostered to the Mahayana Buddhism. Yes, this statement is also correct, because like Mahasanghikas started viewing Lord Buddha as a god. They started treating Lord Buddha as god, and it led to the encouragement, okay, of for the development of Mahayana Buddhism. So that's why correct answer is B for this particular question. Now let us move to the next question for the day. Okay, this question reads, with reference to the period of Gupta dynasty in ancient India, the towns Ghantashala, Khadura and Chaul were well known as, options are ports handling foreign trade, Option B, capital of powerful kingdoms. Option C, places of exquisite stone art and architecture. Option B, important Buddhist pilgrimage centers. Correct answer for this question is option A. These were the ports that were handling the foreign trade. Okay, the Ghantashala and Khadura were the east, ports that were located on the east coast, and then Chaul was a port that was located on the west coast. Okay, so during the Gupta era, you can follow my pen over here. During the Gupta era, there were ports on the east coast and there were ports on the west coast. Okay, in the east coast there were three important major ports. One of them was Tamralipti, then other one was this one Ghantashala, then another one was Kadura. Okay, so these ports, okay, through these ports the Gupta Empire used to trade. Okay, or like northern India used to trade with Southeast Asia. And if we talk about the West Coast ports, okay, so West Coast ports were, one of the port was Broch, okay, Broch. Then another port was Chaul, okay, Chaul. That is mentioned in the question over here. Then apart from this, there was another, there was another port which was known as Kalyan, okay. This particular port was known as Kalyan. Then we had another port that was known as Cambrai. Okay, these were the ports on the west coast, and through these ports, people used to trade with Mediterranean and West Asia. Okay, Mediterranean and West Asia. Okay, trade was happening with Mediterranean and West Asia. Okay, so like what were the items that we were exporting? We were exporting, spice, we were exporting pepper, we were exporting sandalwood, we were exporting pearls, we were exporting precious stones, we were exporting perfumes, indigo, and herbs. And apart from this, we were also importing certain other goods. Okay, what were the goods that we were importing? We were importing silk from China, we imported ivory from Ethiopia, and we imported horses from Arabia, Iran, and Bactria. Okay, so I have also included another map for you, and this is the map of Gupta Empire during 375 AD. So as you can see, the shaded region, this particular region was the core area of influence of Gupta Empire. Apart from this, it also had influence in a major area. Okay, so they had minimum like influence in the extended area over here. But after 75 years, okay, the core area of influence of Gupta Empire has expanded a lot, and they started ruling over this particular territory that I am, shading over here. Okay, they started ruling over this particular territory. At the same time, their influence in the outer region has little bit declined because the southern kingdom has started becoming more powerful. Okay, they started becoming more powerful. Okay, they became more powerful. So that's the thing. So that's all that I had to discuss with you for the day. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending the session. I hope you have a great day ahead. Thank you.